Okay.
Okay, so I just turn it on and that's it, right? Okay. All
Right
right.
now you're muted, is that it?
I'm muted, yeah.
Yeah, if you just turn that off, mute,
Okay.
and then you're good to go. You'll know.
After I get done, do I need to do anything with, and,
Well, if you think about it, you can turn off the projectors if I'm not here to do that.
oh,
But I should be here about the time
yeah,
you guys get done around
yeah,
noonish.
right.
Uh, Unless I get called late, I plan on being back.
Okay.
It's just, I run the two buildings, so I might get called to like a problem. That happens all the time.
Okey-dokey. Thank you.
But I plan on getting back. Have a good seminar.
Where's people in your lab?
I don't work in my lab. Oh. I mean, I have an office. I don't know. Do you see my email?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be easier for you guys to sit on one side of the round table. I don't know how you're going to see the screen.
I'm now removing grass. They give me like all the bacteria with grass. Doing like a grass. Okay. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I have the sprinkler heads here, but if I don't put them like this, so. It's not really because they build it with a machine, where the machine can go like very close to the wall, so they put the heads very close to the wall, and then the pipe comes. I thought the pipe was expensive. You can see the difference. You see the people that doesn't have a sprinkler. That's what digging Texas. Like a digging in a rock. Okay, so it's smaller.
Yes.
That's right. Sometimes it's more like a boom. I'm not saying something because last time. Really. You have a home?
really okay, ready to go? Okay, so before the start time, I just kind of school works, and this is a professional development series, and then the day we invite Dr. Chin. Here is probably the most very well-known skill in manufacturing field, right? So it's known as so today, this will be the some kind of e-story, and so that probably will give you some kind of to understand how this kind of professional career as a student as a leader. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. Good morning.
Good morning.
I know it's late in the morning, so I hope that you'll be more exciting after you hear all the stories that I tell. But I do expect that you should be saying a little louder, okay, this time. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. All right. I received the email said I need to volunteer to give a talk, a few weeks ago, and I said, okay, and I get 2 slots to pick, and so the other professor grabbed the other slots that it was much further into the semester, so I have only 1 slot to pick, so I was asked to volunteer, and I was assigned to a slot. Great. But the advantage is that I get my story to tell, and I really have to sit down and think about the long career that I started as a graduate student, that I felt that I didn't do well and didn't really spend my share of time work on my undergraduate studies back in Taiwan, where I had my undergraduate also in industrial engineering, and but I had so much of the sports activity. I was playing for my university's badminton team. It's very popular sports in Asian countries. So I traveled to different universities playing, and so and I did, not very good grades in my undergraduates, just barely enough to go to a U.S. university. So. And I felt like that I didn't do well in undergraduate, so I really should study a little bit in the graduate school. That's how I stumbled into application process coming into U.S. And so it was back in 1982, after I finished 2 years of military service, which is compulsory in Taiwan. That's how you build up a little bit of the muscles, and how you really listen to the sergeant. And looking back, I appreciate that. So I came to U.S. in 1982, entered University of Missouri at Columbia for the simple reason my brother was there, and it was Midwestern University is cheaper, although the ranking is not super high, but I thought it was good enough. And from there, I did my master's and PhDs, and I joined industries after I finished my PhD degree in 87 or 88, precisely. So my first job employment was at Caterpillar Tech Center in Peoria, Illinois. So I have stayed most of my time from 1980s to beginning of 1990s, nearly 10 years time in Midwest. Graduate school and go to work for Caterpillar. So it was a very fruitful experience. And then from there, I moved on to become assistant professor at Louisiana, and for 3 years later, I became associate professor in Florida, Miami, and 2.5 years back to Ohio, become full professor. So it's a move in the middle of the winter time from 85 degrees down to 25 degrees, back to northern Ohio or mid-Ohio areas. And then in 2.5 years, I become endowed professor at Virginia Tech, and then I stayed the longest time is at Virginia Tech. I stayed 7-8 years. And I thought I'm going to stay there for a very longer time because I love the nature. I love the career streams and fishing and raised families in college town. But I'm in the manufacturing field. You look at this SME, stands for Society of Manufacturing Engineers. So manufacturing is really not much in southwestern mountain areas of Virginia with 5 months of snowy seasons. So finally I decided, well, there's really not much manufacturing and I really need to move. And San Antonio is cranking up the manufacturing. So I came to San Antonio in 2006. So I'm moving into the 7 years. It's getting into the longest professional stay in one position. And I remember after I moved every 2-3 years for 3-4 times, my son was getting nervous when I was staying in Virginia Tech. He said, he came to my room and said, "Dad, are we getting to move again?" It's like feeling like in military families. You know, it's not really, because I get, you know, the very top programs in the countries. Virginia Tech's industrial engineering is ranked top 3 or top 5 in the nation. So I get all the best PhD student I can have access, and so why I have to move? But scenes changed, you know, scenes changed. So I did move, came over here 6-7 years ago. So I'm happy to be in San Antonio. I know we don't have PhD program until a couple of years ago. So I really missed the PhD students, and I do have a couple of 3 PhD part-time students, but you know, the part-time PhD student, you don't normally see them like once a year or something. So they don't really do much work. So they certainly don't graduate, you know. I've seen some of you, you know, faces around, you know. I know maybe some of you, you know, thinking about taking my classes, or a few of you taking my classes, but yes, we're in a very fascinating field of manufacturing, especially Obama, the president office has put up advanced manufacturing programs in the last 2 years and trying to get the nation back to have attractions of getting so-called reshore. We have suffered from the so-called offshoring of our manufacturing activities to the other parts of the world, and now they're talking about reshoring the American company back to these countries. And that's how we can generate the jobs, and that's how all the employment indexes is. Hopefully it's going to be looking better and better in the years to come. Okay. So let's move on to a little story which I condensed of my 32 years of being in the U.S., or 31 years, and 25 years of professional experience. Okay, so let's start from your career path choice. I know when I was graduating with my master's degree, I already get job offer with AT&T at Kansas City, with the Eastman Kodak in New York. You know, it's upstate New York. So I was very happy. So I told all my friends and my advisor after I finished my PhD, I'm going to go work for either AT&T or Eastman Kodak. And I'm glad I didn't do that because it was difficult. If I did that, it'll be a chaotic situation. Because it's 2 years down the road, AT&T closed out their facility in Kansas City. And 3 years down the road, Eastman Kodak in 1985 or 86 actually laid off about 25,000 people. And when those facilities, the industry has unions, environments, they always lay off the people who has the least seniority. So I know I will be the target. I'll be off on the streets or looking for jobs. So at the critical moments, I didn't go to accept that job. Was my mother's give me a phone call and says, Frank, of course, he goes my, not Frank, but it's my name. All right. He said, well, Frank, I heard you're going to go for a job, and but I thought you were, if not smarter, but equally smart. as smart as your older brother who is finishing PhD in chemistry. And so it was a blow to me. I was like, well, I'm just get tired of this graduate program. Even 2 years is just too much, you know. And my mom said, okay, well, and then, you know, he just hung up. So it gave me a little twitch there. So I said, okay, I'm going to go back to talk to my advisor and see if I could get to stay and become a PhD student. They say, well, sure, Frank, you're welcome to stay, but we have already given out all the research assistantships and teaching assistantships because, you know, it's right on the verge of the summer and, you know, we have to commit to all the new students. I said, wow, so what do I do? I still decided to stay, so I went to the math department, looked for a job. They say, well, we all give to the existing student and new student, so, but we'll put it on the waiting list. And I understand that, you know, University of Missouri Math Department is teaching 125 sessions of undergraduate fundamental math, like college algebra. Can you believe they learn algebra in college? Yes, they do, you know, and there's a bunch of those sessions. So I think I can get a job, but they say, oh, we're all given out. So I have 1 semester with our assistantships. I end up with working in the Chinese restaurants as a busboy. I don't even have a seniority to be the waiter. You know, I started as a busboy, and you know what the busboy do, right? And so I get a small share of their little monies from the waiter and waitress after, you know, they get their big share. So it was a difficult semester, but after I finished that 1 semester working and taking classes, I got job offer from engineering and the math department as an instructor. So I ended up with teaching 2 courses at math department and teaching 1 Fortran 77, I think is an antique language, at engineering college. So I actually teach 9 hours a semester as a PhD student. Are you kidding? I mean, you're a PhD student first year and you're teaching 9 hours? And I survived because I make a lot of money. You know, by that standard, by that time, 20-some years ago, a lot of money. But it was very fun. I mean, that's part of the reason I eventually came back to academia, because I really have enjoyed teaching at math departments. You know, from the students, the big, you know, the big basketball players and the football players, you know, came to me and said, so what, Mr. Chen? What can I do? I missed so many classes. I said, well, come to my office. Yeah. So, you know, I really have fun working with, and I think a lot of athletes is very, very smart, especially the basketball players. You know, you don't see them as too tall or too big. You know, their brain is not too small either. Excuse me. Yeah. Okay. So, have a long story short, I again, after I finished my PhD program, I get tired of academic again, you know, because, you know, I wrote papers, I wrote proposals for the advisors, and the advisors seems to be much more greedier than I expected because I have done so much. So, I told my department head, I said, no, I'm not going to go to, you know, work in academia because, you know, he knows that I suffer, you know, because I told my advisor I got a job there, and he said, well, why don't you stay another summer? Why don't you stay another semester? You know, I said, but I've got the proposal done for you. We have published 2-3 journal papers, so, well, I know you're capable, so it's not right, you know, it's not right, but let's not get into that. Yeah. So I told my department chair, I said, I'm going to work for industries. You know, I'm so tired and sick of academia. You know what he said to me? He said, Frank, don't say it too quickly and too loudly. You may change your mind. I said, no, are you kidding? I mean, so I left very happily to go to work for Caterpillar. And then so it's, you know, the deliberation point is that the nature of your work and fields, because I'm in manufacturing, I'm in industrial engineering. So I think that industry is right for me. So my fields at that time was more in advanced manufacturing, a flexible manufacturing system that is a hands-free or light-out type of manufacturing systems. And of course, your interest, whether you like what you do and you want to continue to do what you like to do. your experience. Are you, I did a lot of manufacturing system modeling, mathematical models. So I thought that I can do it well in industries. And I'm inspired to solve the real world problems. And where is the real world problems? Out in industry. So I make up my first decisions of going into professional career is go to work for industries. So here we go. I look for from the campus interview, the big companies sign up and I go talk to them. I got some offers. And I choose Caterpillar for the reason that is the size and also I like that big manufacturing environments. When I smells the greasy, dirty shop floor, it gets me excited, because when I took the manufacturing processes class as an undergraduate, I really loved that class because it is very traditional manufacturing process class. I have to stay the whole afternoon messing around with different sizes of machines and cutting tools and making parts and put the parts together. So that's every week I would spend at least 4 to 5 hours messing up with those things. So I just get excited with the manufacturing company. So, and of course, having a PhD, so they assign me to a research and development type of department. So we're working at developing the so-called cutting parameters for machine tools, like the speeds, cutting feed and speeds rates, and the type of materials, what's the maximum or what's the optimal cutting conditions, etc. And you use a lot of statistical skills to do the data analysis, etc. But I realized later on, very soon in industry environments, that the people skill is utmost important. Even at that time, the Caterpillar is a very conservative company. So every day I was told that I have to wear white shirts and black ties and my pants has to be dark pants. It's nothing fashionable you're supposed to wear. It's such a conservative company, 25 years ago. So Midwesterns, hardworkings, and 6:30 in the morning have to be in the office, and of course everybody go play golf after 4:30 or 5 o'clock. So, but I start feeling that just the technical strength is not good enough. You have to have a very good people skill to get yourself appreciated. So Caterpillar sent me through some very important trainings of, like, I don't know whether you heard about Dale Carnegie training. So they train you to be talking to people very forceful, know how to plumb on the desk and get the scenes negotiation done and all that. So I graduated from that so-called management training teams, and I was surprised. I was ranked number 2 in that team, being the first international going through that very conservative companies. So they give me 3 promotions in 4 years. And I really don't think that I can hold that speed because it would be too hard for me to become a manager in what I think a little stupid way is that too young to get involved into the management. But the reality is that the compensation package in industries, research, or whatever industry positions, something to do with your rank, tied closely with your rank. So if you don't become supervisor, don't become managers, like I was senior engineer, I become project manager, program managers. Every time it's come with a very sizable raises. And so I figure out that's, if you enjoy that life, that's great. But if you don't think that you can sustain that speeds of move, and the potential requirements of moving to Japan or to Belgium, which I did a lot of the consulting job for the company when I lead the project team, work at Grenoble, France, and Gazeley, Belgians, feeling like it's great. But when I have a set of twin born at the same time, of course, the twin born at the same time, right? Then I feel like, well, I really cannot be on the roads all the time with 3 weeks there, 5 weeks there, and came back home and the kids did not even recognize me. Who are you? So I told my wife, maybe I should think about coming back to academia, after 3-4 years. And my wife says, yeah, well, Caterpillar treat us well, so why, it's a good compensation package, and we have 2 kids born in the hospital. The co-payment is 0. It's such a great company with such a wonderful healthcare packages. But I still decided to move. It was a very critical point. But let me finish about the hard realities of working in industries. Like I say, you have to be enjoying travels, and not just 1 year, 2 years, but it's throughout your career. Because if you want to move up the ranks, you have to travel and get known by the rest of your corporations. It's 95,000 people's company, so before you want to move up to the level that I foresee, if I stay, I will be division manager, at least at this time, and has 250 people reporting to me, if I did stay, 20 years ago. And you have to be moved around, because there are 50 or 80 facilities now in other countries, so it's going to be a hard, or could be a fun, career path too. And not all assignments are exciting. In the middle of the research project for companies, my boss came to me and said, "Oh, Frank, just drop that whole thing. Tomorrow we have some more high emergency things. You need to be in Gazali next week." I said, "Where is it, Gazali?" "Oh, Belgium." Okay, so we packed up and left for Belgium. And in the airplane, I was thinking, well, after I spent 6 months on that project, you just told me that, just trash it, so I don't like that. But I think with the salary they are paying you, so you have not much to say, right? You don't argue. And a few times I try to publish my articles. I teach locally at Bradley University at Peoria, Illinois, which is Bradley has a great basketball team usually. And so I work with some professors, I did some publications, and when I try to publish the papers, Caterpillar Corporate Relations would interview me and says, well, Dr. Chen, why you wanted to publish this? I said, well, this has nothing to do with company proprietary information, right? He said, but why you want to publish? I said, well, it's good for company, right? The reputation of Caterpillar is, okay, yeah, let's understand, So, but I have to go to the 7th floors in the corporate buildings to talk to the attorney, talk to the public relations. I don't like that, So that's part of the reason I thought that if I come back to academia, publication would be welcome rather than questions. But of course, Caterpillar today is very different. Caterpillar today has many PhDs. They are much stronger in research as well. So it's not 25 years ago. But if you decide to move back to academia, like later on, or you decide to step out, take your first job in academia, I think working in academia, the prerequisite is you have to have a passion for education. My enjoyments of teaching that college algebra, or we call finite mathematics, simple linear programming and stuff to the sort of the remedials, the freshmen or sophomore, or the business school of mathematics they call finite mathematics. It's really fun. It doesn't have much research in there, but it's you're dealing with students. So I feel like I can handle the teaching side. So that's at least I feel that I would not be torturing myself if I become a professor. And then I think I enjoy some freedom because I want to pursue topic areas that I like. Because when I was at research topic seeking stage in a PhD, none of my professor in the department know anything about flexible manufacturing system. It's so new back 20-some years ago. It only shows, the application in industries. So I insist on want to do research in that area, so I end up having to do a lot of literature reviews, and then every week I would go to educate my professors. What is this FMS? This is automatic load-unload systems. This is, unmanned vehicles. This is a machine tool has this automatic spindle system that will stop when, I had to educate my professor. I thought that I have a full freedom controlling my research pace. But now when I start working in industries, my boss comes to me and says, just drop that and go to somewhere. I don't like that. So I thought that, oh, if I go back to academia, it would be great. So academic freedom, you have to. And you have to accept the moderate lifestyles, meaning that I would hopefully, enjoy fishings and not become the big managers, so powerful people, not getting paid a whole lot, and, just be driving your low-end vehicles and don't dream about driving a Mercedes or Lexus or something like that. So I can handle that, And I realize even I become an endowed or distinguished chair professor, I still don't drive a Lexus or Acuras or, after I pay my 2 kids to private universities. I always talk to my kids. I mean, they are in graduate school and medical school, and I said, your dad didn't buy a Lexus, right? He said, yeah, we all understand. He said, but I tell you, if I don't pay your tuition for 1 year at the private university like Rice University, for 1 year I can buy 1 Lexus. So 4 years, 2 of you, I can buy 8 of them, He said, but Dad, you don't need 8 of them, I know. Maybe in the future we'll buy 1 for you. I say, okay, let's make it a deal. They're still struggling in the medical school and in the graduate school in Cambridge. Yeah. Okay, so survival skill on teachings. Once you enter your academic fields, like I said, the last point there says the most essential requirement. You have to, do a very decent job in teachings. And in teaching, you look at how effective your teaching style and how efficient, meaning that how you can prepare, your teaching portfolios and combine with some research and be able to do both teaching and research combined efforts. Fundamental and graduate levels, you have to be able to teach both undergraduate core courses and the graduate level core courses. And I've done all that when I was my 3 years of assistant professor levels. My teaching load is usually 2.2 or 2.3. And I don't have PhD student to work with, so it's not, it's my 3 years of assistant professor was difficult. And I teach some fundamental engineering classes as well. So, and it has to be student focused, meaning that you really need to know what the student needs. A basketball students need what? Or, they need a special coachings and the passions to influence them so that they can pass the class. Okay. How about research? I think that's, with the very good teaching, it's open secret now. You're going to get a tenure and promotions in any universities if you go with academic work. So the research, the key is to get the grants and contracts. It's a simple saying, but it's very difficult to do, especially for starting up professors. And it all comes with a lot to do with your innovative, I call it innovativeness and how persistent you are. You get proposals rejected 2 times. You get so frustrated, you bite your teeth overnight. You submit it 3 times on the roads. You try to, and sometimes it paid. And of course, you have to have some good preliminary results. I'm very fortunate when I work in industry, I have some industry project. It's not very pure research. So when I moved to academia, I have ideas. When I wrote proposals, although I don't have all the hardcore data, but it's very, very relevant to what the reviewers, especially on the manufacturing fields, manufacturing engineering field reviewers, they like the way that I stated the problems, and with my some industries years of backgrounds, they know the issues that I talk about in proposal is not something that you're going to start a Star War or something, but it's real. You're trying to, solve the real problem. So I have done some preliminary results with, being an assistant professor in a university, has no PhD program in the departments. I try to make the best use of the master student, and of course, I myself become a research assistant for myself too. It's a difficult stage. In fact, the that's, I often told many people that the hardest job in the world is probably assistant professor. It's because you have to do teaching, to do research, and you have to do all of them very well too. And you have to get known by other people. So, we talked about that. So do I scale your way? Don't become a professor. Yeah. And of course, whether you get the grants or not, you need to do research, right? Because it's like a chicken and egg problem. If you don't get publications, people don't think you know the subject. But if you don't get the money, how can you get student hired and how can you produce? So do research. And if you have sponsor, you keep the sponsor informed about your progress. When I came back to academia, Caterpillar continued to hire me as a research consultant. So their staff, or used to be people reporting to me, will be on site, and looking at what I have done, So it's a little ironic because they were my staff, and now they turn around, funded a small project in academia. So, and I keep them happy, Federal employee, you cannot take them out for a very good lunch or dinner, but the private industry's employees, when they come, you can kind of smooth them up with, how to treat them well, right? Building a longer-term relationship, meaning you don't try to rob the money one time, you just continue. So even after 20 years, back in, before I moved here, actually I had a sabbatical approved, and that sabbatical leave was actually for me to go back to Caterpillar Tech Center, reporting directly to the director of the tech center, or he's a vice president as well. But I decided to take a sabbatical here, so, and then I stay, so people changed. But I did, a fairly amount of work for a couple of years intensively for consulting, even after I left the company for, 15 years already. So you try to build longer term. Referee publication are essentials. And I know your professor coached you well. So, you have to do that. The publications are very, very important, and to the point that also considered as essentials. And I think you are all graduate students at this point, most of you. The good graduate students are hard to find. So make sure you transform yourself, become a good graduate student, help your professors, because I love to see all of our professors here are very successful. Yes?
You get a break. Let's see you have
Good ones are hard to find.
How do you resume that second?
Okay. You have to be proactive in looking for good ones. So that's something I'm doing too, is if you just sit here and wait for people sending their applications, the hit rates, the people thinking UT San Antonio is very highly of UT San Antonio is very slim, okay? But we have, if personally you have the reputations, I think some of our professors can use their personal reputation, go out to hire good students. Meaning that you have to travel to universities and make presentations and build some personal relationship with these university faculties. And so they will be attracted to UTSA because of you rather than UTSA reputation itself. So it's nice for you to go to a very highly reputed universities. You start out with PhD programs and because because its name is UC Berkeley, because its name is MIT. So all the good applicants would try to toss their applications to those top schools. But especially at the kind of mid-levels universities, we don't already have the UT Austin reputations. It's going to be hard to find. And the way to deal with it is to stepping out and do the recruiting for yourself. Okay, good questions. Yeah. And of course, as part of your university research career, you have to do some services to the levels of your organizations and also externally your professional associations or societies. Department, college, university committees, usually assistant professors don't do much of the university levels committees, but because they are not expected to do that. But the department and college, you could be asked to serve in the committees. But some committees are really reserved for the senior faculties, especially the promotion tenure related or some policy related that assistant professor voiced up could actually hurt your potentials in that organization. So the professional society is another big angle. You need to maintain the membership in one or two very actively participating one or two professional societies or organizations, and active participation meaning you try to follow their annual conferences and go present where you'll be able to build up your connections from their professional societies by attending those annual conferences or some special symposiums. And you should follow, like I just said, follow one or two important relevant conferences, research conferences, and assisting in proposal and paper manuscript reviews. So you volunteering yourself to be a reviewers of journals. At one time when I was associate professors, I have to review probably 15 to 20 journals as a reviewers, and then from there people start inviting you to become associate editor and editors. So now I'm the editor of 3 journals, and it's still a lot of work. So you turn around inviting other people to do the reviews for you, which is sometimes even harder because why they have to do it for you? You don't pay them money. So it's, but it's all part of the professional services. But I built my network of close friends and colleagues. So if I see a paper sit there for 6 months and none of the invited reviewers didn't do it, I sometimes write personal letters to my friends and says, well, can you help take care of this? And it would get done in 1 week by that way. So sometimes you have to pull the strings, when you have the connections built up. Okay, and other services, it's important. Sometimes you organize workshops or symposiums, and because that's how people get to know you. So by the time you want to submit your promotion and tenure, we call P&T packages, you would have some visibilities that you can comfortably identify people who can serve an unbiased reviewer for you. It's get a little dangerous if your packages get tossed to an individual that is completely not knowing your background at all. Sometimes I receive sometimes requests from Cambridge, a couple of times, Cambridge and University of Michigan. They were trying to do it in such a way that making sure that I don't know these individuals. So some universities get to be very strict on that. And indeed, I don't know these guys from Cambridge universities, but and it's European culture is a little different. Other than just some of the spelling is different. The culture is different too. So, final few words of wisdoms I want to bring it up is you would have to have funded projects to get some really good publications coming out, but it doesn't mean that some of the student project or some even senior design projects that you supervise cannot get publication at all. If you are innovative enough, you could turn an industry project into a master's thesis, and even though you don't have sponsors from these industries, but you have the problem statement was defined based on the industry reality, so you still can publish those kind of articles. And that's why sometimes people came to me, and some junior colleague says, well, this industry asks us to do this. This is so simple. They could have done it, by themselves. Why they're asking us? I said, it's a service for one thing, and second thing, you could turn that and into a research project by, complicating the issues and making some assumptions. You could turn it into a research project as well. So, applied industry projects are not necessarily bad, meaning that if you see later on, if you have industry contact, you don't just simply turn them away because especially if your first job going into academic director, you don't have industry backgrounds, then I think industry project would help you grow professionally too and get you to learn how to communicate too, because industry's communication is really different from the universities. And those of you know that professors have their own rooms, right? So I can close my door without talking to anybody the whole day, right? That's not healthy. But that's the nature of the academic world. Yeah. And so sometimes the professor, like my son would complain to me and says, "Oh, this professor in MIT, it's so hard to get hold of them." And I said, "Well, didn't they open up their door?" He said, "No. Even they open up their door, you knock on that, they will come out and says, 'You come back some other time.'" They hold themselves so high esteem. I said, "Well, that's MIT style. I'm sorry. You want to come back to UTSA?" All right. So innovativeness is a key. So you look at the trends. Now everybody talk about cloud computing. So I'm going to talk about cloud manufacturing. How about that? So we have to learn what is that. I mean, why you're doing research up in the clouds. Starting out will not be easy. I know. I've already told you that assistant professors is the hardest job in the world. But that's why I think we're trying to help our junior faculty with startup fund. We reduce the teaching loads and try to encourage, and even offer the student, graduate student opportunities that can work with these new professors. And the number of proposals and paper submission counts. What I say here is that if you are the style of people you get one rejection, you feel so aggravated, you couldn't sleep and couldn't eat, then you should not become a professor because you probably get a lot of those days. You couldn't eat, couldn't sleep because you get rejected all the time. Remember that I think that the first federal grant or NSF grant that I received is after I submitted various different topics for 6 times and I got 1. So later on I figured out I was not doing bad because NSF hit rate is only, somewhere between 7 to 15%. So by not getting accepted the first time or second time or even the 5th time, I wasn't really doing that bad, right? So paper get rejected, proposal get rejected. You only feel sorry for an hour, all right? And then turn around, bite your teeth, go have some good lunch, not a drink, okay? Not necessary. Networking and teaming are the must. It's the nature, especially now. 20-some years ago when I wrote NSF proposal, the single PI is still okay. But now they are looking for not only multiple PIs or principal investigators, they're looking for multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary. Not just multi, but they want to look for integrations. That where you indeed working as a team of researchers. So the teaming and networking is very important. So these are some of my feelings about research, but of course it's not everything I can think of. But work hard, devote it yourself, whether you want to go with industries careers, academic careers, or government research lab careers. But there's catch, right? So your life is great because you have job, right? This job is paying well, so you come to work, you feel like you fulfill what you did. Not exactly, You really. Your job, definition of job, like Professor Jeff Leiker, he's an industrial engineering professor at the University of Michigan. He's the person that wrote several books on Toyota production systems. So I call him a guru of that area. And he said that no, job is work plus Kaizen. Kaizen is a Japanese word meaning continuous improvement. Okay, or it's the words of making the changes for better. Those of you who don't understand that, that's fine, but the Japanese is stealing the words from the Chinese, so that's why I can understand what they said, Kaizen, all right? And Xiaodu is an expert on Japanese. Okay, so Professor Jeff Liker, not Professor Kaizen, Professor Jeff Liker says the job should be defined that you have doing the work well, and also you continue to improve yourself in the sense of you continue to carry out your innovativeness natures. So you move on to hot topics areas, generate research project. So every time when people ask you, what is your current project? In a few years, answers could be very different, right? Because you move on to different. And my definitions, I added one more, is that not just work and Kaizen, you have to have the passion. If you come to work every day, you just don't like it. I think it's not healthy, okay? If you don't think you like that job, you're not going to continuously improve it. You're going to try to suit the job. So my definition is even further ahead of Professor Jeff Liker's definition. I think your job has to have, a very wonderful job done or work done nicely, always looking for improvement, and you have to have a passion for your job. Okay, so I like teaching in the U.S. because U.S. does not have a concrete retirement age. So by the time of 65, which is still some years away, I start worrying that, well, by 60, if I cannot teach, what do I do? Because you have that passion, right? If you go fishing every day, if you don't go fishing one day, you feel like something wrong, right? So you have to have a passion, So when you choose, you have to decide whether you keep the passions long enough, and that passion will continuously drive you forward. In the last scenes, I cannot teach you, but you can try it out by going to Las Vegas, right? Good luck. Okay, I feel like I'm very lucky. I moved around every places. I like to build up something, and at least I accomplished what these places hire me for. And I'm happy with what I can accomplish, what I have accomplished. And of course, life is always moving toward what you think can be more fulfilling, in different stages. So, like my department chair at University of Missouri told me, don't say it too loud, too quickly, because you don't know what's going to happen in the next years, or the next 5 years, or the next 10 years, And I really don't think I can become a professor when I was doing poorly in my undergraduate. Not really doing poorly. I don't spend enough time. As an undergraduate student, I only study 2 nights a week, because I spend 2 nights training on badminton, 3 nights going become tutors to earn some monies to make a living. So I tutor high school, I tutor middle school students, earn my living. So I just don't spend enough time. So looking back, the only thing I go to graduate school is that I feel guilty that I don't study in undergraduate. I think it's my undergraduate is 3.05 or something. It's barely above the U.S. graduate school requirement of 3.0. So I showed the 3.05 to impress them, you see. Yeah. But it's, I got accepted to Northwestern. I think Northwestern, good school, but it was about 10 times more expensive than University of Missouri. And my brother is there, so I can kind of hopping into the same apartment, and so. But it's good luck. And any questions? Open up. Yes.
So your path through industry to academia is really interesting, but it's not the way that most people get to academia, which I perceive to be a series of postdoc positions and then assistant professorship.
In the science area, yes. Like my brother, he went to University of Southern California and did some postdoc there, and then, it's a little hardship that he has to go. But in engineering, you don't have to have the postdoc positions.
I was wondering how open academia seemed to be to hiring people who spent years in industry.
That's a very good point. I forgot to mention that. Yes. Most academia don't like industry people. After 5 years, if I work in industry more than 5 years, they think I don't know how to write paper. I don't know how to behave as a professor. They think I'm just the industry's type of style people, just know how to talk, don't know how to do anything. That's academic people's impressions on industries, PhDs after they work in industry. So that's why I decided to move before 5 years. Yeah. But if you were careful enough, published, while you're still in industries, right now, most big company industry encourage you to do publications too. So you still had a chance. But if you stay beyond 5 or 10 years, it's difficult because the culture is so much different that you will be, in fact, becoming less competent in publication indeed. Because you would do a project report and then move on, project report. And the project report is, in industry project, you don't use differential equations to go to your boss, okay? You write results, this problem solved, that problem solved. So you're going to be becoming away and away from the so-called referee journal publications route, and so you get troubles on that. So, but maybe you can teach in community colleges or teach in colleges that not focus on publications. Yes, so there are some universities still hiring extensive industries, experienced people. But yeah, if you really think that you want to come back to academia, industries, you can stay only a few years. And for me, there's not by design. It's just happened. It just happens. And it was back in early 1990s, very difficult to find an academic job because the economy is down. So that's why, I don't have a luck of getting a very good assistant professor position at a top ranked university because University of Missouri is not top ranked, okay? So that's always, I told my son, I said, if I were you, have a, assuming he's successful, have a PhD from this top school, you can go to anywhere to teach, right? But because your dad is from University of Missouri, excuse me, I'm not offending University of Missouri, so I got to move several times before I got to teach at Virginia Tech. Okay, if you look at the Virginia Tech list of faculty there, they're almost all of them from top schools. From Stanford, from Georgia Tech. So there's only one exception, who is an endowed chair, by the way, at Virginia Tech, who is a University of Missouri graduate. So it's taken a little longer time for you to move around. But with my industry experience, that helps me move up real quick because I have only 3 years of assistant professor. And when I asked for promotions and tenure, University of Louisiana told me that in our school history, we don't have anybody in assistant professors get promoted in 3 years. So I said, well, what does that mean? Do I not submit? He said, well, you can submit, but it's not likely you're going to pass it. So I submitted, they passed it, but at the same time I told them I'm moving to University of Florida Systems. Yeah. So the career is like this because I'm going through industries, so I'm more forceful in asking for what I want. So if I stay in one place, to be honest with you, you're going to take 6 years or 7 years to become associate professor. And it may take forever to become full professor. So I become associate professor for 2.5 years. Somebody come, the deans and the vice president of another school offer me a full professor. Up to 2.5 years being associate professor. And I told my wife, we have to move. My wife says, well, can they really give you both full professor and tenure? I say, I'll ask. maybe they don't, so we'll stay here happily in Florida. But since when you ask and they give it to you, so what do? You have to move, right? When you ask for you say, I want to be a full professor, I want to have a tenure position as a full professor, they give it to you. So in 5 years, in a little over 5 years, I become full professor. And then another 2.5 years, Virginia Tech dean and department chair was in Ohio talking to my dean there, says, we're going to try to get Dr. Chen to my school. I said, why are you doing that? We only talked. How can you come to my university, try to recruit me this way? By walking into my dean's office at Ohio and says, we're going to move his whole lab to Virginia Tech. So it's making me have no way back, so I had to go to Virginia Tech. So I thought I was very happy. Every stage I came to here was also happy. I'm still happy. Yeah. Yes. Hey.
I noticed that during the faculty search, they look for candidates with good research background, and then they hire them to bring the research to them and bring money to the university.
Well, for the senior faculties, and the question is?
Well, that's what they're looking for when they search, when they hire faculty.
For the senior faculty, some university would put some string attached with it, meaning that you can transfer or you can come with some research grant and good students. Yeah. So.
What about for starting like assistant professor?
Assistant professor, since you normally is not capable of bringing the projects or funding, so normally they don't, you only look at your potentials. You put your bet on the potential of this individual and give him startup fund, because he's an MIT graduate, he's a University of Michigan graduate, so you put a bet on it. And the field is hot, so. But for senior faculties, the publications, well-established reputations, I think the only reason that I got my full professor in 5.5 years, is because I get the Presidential Faculty Fellow Award, and I got go to the White House to shake hands with then President Clinton's. And I still remember that. Take a look at that all executive, they call all executive building hallway, and that's what something happens, between him and Ms. Lewinsky. But it was right on that time, yeah. It was right on that time that I went to White House in 1996, yeah. The big grants, big reputations, usually what the university is looking for. But you need to keep these people, be able to retain these people and keep him long enough. That's another issue. So even though we can attract with a big endowments or something, but if you are here and very soon he or she get frustrated, then we have problems. I think we have examples in business school, right? We have a big endowed chair there. I don't want to name his last name, but I think that individual we recruited was very high compensation package and established a center here, but he left only a little bit over a year or less than a year. Yeah. And people is very marketable. They don't like your environment. They can just immediately turn around and look for new opportunities. So, any more questions? I hope that you learn a little bit, if not a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.